This oral history interview recording is being made as part of a collection for the Seminole County Public Library. These interviews capture the stories and experiences of Seminole County residents who have resided in the county since 1960 or before. Today is Thursday, January 4th, 2024. My name is Amy Marie Cantley, and I am interviewing Mrs. Ingrid Bryant at the Central Ranch Library in Castleberry, Florida. Mrs. Bryant, do I have permission to record this interview and make it publicly accessible on the library website?
Yes.
Do I have permission to share this recording and supporting materials with the Longwood Historic Society for inclusion with their oral history collection?
Yes.
Thank you. And also the Oviedo Historical Society?
Absolutely.
Thank you. First question, when and where were you born?
I was born in Munich, Germany on February 21st, 1944, in the height of the World War II. My mother had to go to the hospital, and they took her and delivered me in the basement because the sirens went off. So yes, but I was her daughter. I look enough like her to know I was her daughter. Yes, that's where I was born.
Can you share some of your early memories from Germany?
Oh, yes, with pleasure. I was raised with my grandmother, my grandfather, my brother Norbert, myself, and my mother. My mother, at that point that I can remember, was divorced from my father. And so we lived with Grandma. And my brother and I were very close because of the situation. Our house was bombed, so it was in disrepair, but it was a happy home. And not knowing, what would happen, as a child, I had this admiration for the American soldiers based on the fact that here I was, the enemy's child, and yet they saw to it that we had food, candy, and a smile when we saw them. Unfortunately, the Russian soldiers that came through Munich, we ran from them. They were not very, very good to the children, like the American soldiers. So to me, my hero will always be the American soldier. Then my mother, in 1956, married my dad that brought me to America. She had a stipulation. I am a package deal. I come with 2 children, and you're going to adopt them because they're coming with me to America. And he did. He adopted us, and I set foot on American soil on the 5th of January in New Jersey at McGuire Air Force Base in 1958. Not really knowing that I would want to be here, since I was pretty well established in Germany. I went to Catholic school, and my friends and the city I lived in was just a wonderful city for me. And I had my doubts that this would work out, so I mentioned that to my grandmother. And my grandmother, she said to me, she said, Ingrid, stay a year. If you do not like it, I will send you a passage on a boat. She didn't like airplanes. And you can come back. So the first year we were in Orlando. I went to Cherokee Junior High School. Not speaking English, it was a big hindrance to me. I did have 1 year of Oxford English, but trust me, that did not go well in America. So I said, oh well, I only got 5 months left, 4 months left. Okay, I can do this. And my year was up January 5th, 1959. Unfortunately, my grandmother passed the 15th of December, 1958. So there went that. Knowing that I was having problems, my mother started asking around about schools because there were no ESOL lessons back then. And her neighbor, Mrs. Kraft, told her that she needed to take me to Oviedo, Florida. They had the best schools. It's a small community, and that would probably make a difference, and I would be less homesick. And she did. My mother found a house in Chuliota. She bought it, and in April of 1959, I came to Oviedo High School, which was school grades 1 through 12. I happened to have the good fortune of having an English teacher that told me, before you graduate, you will be speaking English. I said, yeah, right. And I did. She was right about that. Then I got married in 1963 to my first husband. This was on June 23rd, 1963. July 16th was the worst day of my life because my brother Norbert was killed in a car accident. There was a tragedy beyond measure for my mother. Losing 2 children in that short a time, she was devastated and never really got over my brother at all. You don't get over a death when you lose a child. Unfortunately, I have experienced that now myself. So it was my brother came to see me the night he died, and he said, sis, I don't have all year to wait for a nephew. I want a nephew. So my goal at that point was to give my brother that nephew he wanted, and I did. June 29th, 1964, I had my first son, whom I wanted to name after my brother, but my husband did not like the name Norbert. So I named him after my favorite saint, Saint Christopher. Christopher was a saint in the Catholic Church, but he was sort of demoted at that point. So I named my son after him, and I named him Christopher Ray because he was my ray of sunshine. And he lived to be 51 years old, but he died on July 19th in 2015 of melanoma. That was hard. He had a wife and 3 children. Out of the first marriage, I married an Oviedo boy, and he and I had 3 children, but the marriage did not make it. So in 1979, I married my second husband, who was a German man by the name of Norbert. I thought, well, I wasn't going to have any more children, but lo and behold, God saw it different. I had 1 more child, and his name, yes, is Norbert George, after my brother. So that is that story. My experience of Oviedo has been nothing but wonderful. I was taken in as the little immigrant I was. They were kind to me, taught me English, let me do math the way I was taught in Germany. The math teacher was Mrs. DeShazo. The principal was Mr. DeShazo. Gave me one piece of advice when I came to him because my feelings were hurt by some of the children. He said to me, Ingrid, don't worry about people being ugly to you. No, that's not the way he said it. How did he say that? Don't argue with people whose opinion you don't respect. That was the way he said it. And that kind of hit home, and I was much better because of that, because I got to where I let things rub off of me. I graduated in 1963 from Oviedo High School, who just celebrated its 100th anniversary last year. So I did speak English, got married, had a wonderful life in that respect, but the marriage failed. But the second marriage, it also failed. But I had my wonderful Norbert. I did marry a 3rd time, and that marriage, he died. So, but he was an American soldier. So with my admiration for the American soldiers, that worked for me, but he passed on. And now I I did have the opportunity after my second marriage to go to work for the City of Oviedo as their customer service and accounts receivable, because I always was good in math and counting money was a passion of mine. So I did that, and I retired from that job. While at that job, I got to meet the people that moved into Oviedo by signing them up for water service. And I always told them, please do blend in. Don't try to change Oviedo. Oviedo is a great place to live. Just blend in. And then my mom in 1996, she passed from cancer. She was a smoker. After my brother died, she started smoking, and it was self-induced. She was 71 years old. And I told her I was going to work till I was 80. She says, "Are you crazy?" She says, "Look at me. I'm 71 years old. I'm laying in this bed. I got money. Can't spend it but on doctors." She says, "You get out as soon as you can." So I did follow her advice, because I had a mission to get a Catholic church in Oviedo. And that helped in the fact, because the people that would come in to sign up for water, I've somehow always made sure I'd ask, what church do you go to? Which is not a appropriate question anymore, but it was an interest to me. And if they said Catholic, I said, "Well, we don't have a Catholic church in Oviedo, but if you help me pray, we will get one." So I retired in 2004. Bishop Wensky was then the adjunct bishop. Before that, after my mom died, After my mom died, I had a lady come into my office that helped me file, because I was too busy collecting money, so she would file my paperwork. And her name was Anna Marcantoni, and she says, "Ingrid, you're not the only one who wants a Catholic church in Oviedo. The Spanish community wants one too." I said, "Really?" "Yes," she says. I says, "Well, who do I get in touch to talk to?" And she says, "Well, it's Dr. Carlos Velez, Munich." I said, Munich. Very interesting. So I met with them, the Spanish community. Dr. Velez got us an interview with Bishop Norbert, first with Father Walsh. Father Walsh got us, from Winter Park, got us the appointment with Bishop Norbert, who had just bought 59 acres in Oviedo with the intention of building a church and a school. So when we met with him, he said, "Before I build you a church, I need a school in that part of my diocese." I said, "Well, yeah, you will do that." He says, "Yes, a school." It's okay. So then Archbishop Wensky came aboard, and Bishop Norbert, another thing, my brother's named Norbert, my son's named Norbert, my husband's named Norbert, and now my grandson's named Ivan Norbert. So I said, "Dear Lord, keep spoiling me." Adjunct Bishop Wensky made it a reality to me. We met with him in December 22nd, 2004. I had retired in April of 2004 from the city, so I was really putting all my efforts into this church. And he said, "When I become the bishop of the Diocese of Orlando," he says, "this will be the first thing I'll address." He gave us the news, Dr. Velez and I, on the 22nd of December 2004, that would it be okay if he would have something on that property, where we could have a church service, maybe April. He says, "Maybe April." I said, "Oh my God." I said, "Of course it is." I said, "I've waited 40 years. I've been praying for 40 years for this. I know what Moses felt like in the desert." And here we are. We are now probably the youngest parish in the Diocese of Orlando, and we have our Parish Life Center. We're still needing our church, and of course our school, which was planned and approved by the city in 2005, when we had our first Mass on On April 24th, 2005, the same day that the Pope, Benedict XVI, said his first Mass as Pope. Interesting fact with that, I was confirmed in Germany in 1955 by Cardinal Faulhaber. After reading up on Pope Benedict, I said he was ordained by the same cardinal that I was given my confirmation on. So there was that connection. Our church name is Most Precious Blood. His first church name that he was assigned to was Holy Blood, Heiliges Blut. So yeah, God works in mysterious ways. Don't ever not believe that. I can attest to that. Now what do you want? That's about all of Germany and Oviedo.
So you've seen quite a bit of change in the Oviedo area in your time there. What do you hope people learn from your experiences there, or things that you have seen along the way?
Well, as Claire Evans told me when we started growing in Oviedo, which was about 85, 86, we had our first planned unit development, Alafaya Woods. And I said, oh my God, I said, we really are growing. She said to me, she says, Oviedo was the best kept secret in Seminole County, but it got out. As you can tell, it really has. We're over 40,000 population now, and there are concerns that need to be addressed along the way. The roads, the infrastructure is the main concern to me, being I work with the water department there too. And but the people in Oviedo are the most giving and caring people that I came across. And as I always told everybody, blend, make it better. Don't try to change too much of Oviedo. But yeah, that. And what would I like them to know? To appreciate America. Appreciate the United States of America, because as an immigrant, I saw the other side of what could happen, and that is something I pray does not happen here. Appreciate your country. That I do. And Oviedo, it's my beloved city. It's only one thing I need still, hopefully in my lifetime, and that is a museum. Oviedo has so much history that needs to be preserved, and we have one book that Dr. Addix wrote with Donna Neely, the biography of a town, that he donated the proceeds of that and the rights to it to the Oviedo Historical Society, so we could get a museum, and with the proceeds helping towards that. And that I still would like to see. And we do have the Lawton House as a bridge to a museum. It was not ever meant to be the museum because there's too much history. It's too small at this point, and anyway, if you could help buy the book at the farmers market the first and third Saturday of the month from I think 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Please buy a copy of that book. And
we do have a copy of it here at the library. I read it for research. It is a very interesting book.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, I put it on Facebook every chance I get.
So what do you consider to be your greatest accomplishment of your time in Oviedo?
In Oviedo, learning English. Learning English, having good teachers. Don't ever underestimate your teachers. They're there to help you, and they will see to you being successful. Oviedo did have the best school, especially for me. And my greatest accomplishment in Oviedo, that's yet to be seen. That's yet to be seen.
You had mentioned the teacher who encouraged you with learning English. Do you remember their name?
Lois Rudell. Miss Lois Rudell. She never was married. She was a little short woman and feisty. And she was very thorough about everything, and she did. And the only other teacher I would like to mention that was instrumental in me becoming an American citizen and helping me to that was Coach Paul Mickler. And when I became a citizen on September 18th, 1969, I went to him. I said, Coach, what do I do now? He says, you remember this, apathy is the worst enemy of democracy. If you see something, speak up. Unfortunately, yes, I do speak up a lot more than I should, but I want Oviedo, I want America to be the way it was meant to be by our forefathers. It was a refuge from people that had nothing, that came here as immigrants. And in my situation, my mother came to keep her children from enduring what she did in World War II. So, there's always a reason why someone would come here because home is home. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's just...
We don't tend to leave it if we don't have a reason to.
Exactly. So, it wasn't my decision, but it was my mother's, but it was a great decision for me. Losing my brother, who is buried at the Oviedo Cemetery, along with my mother, my dad that brought me to America, and then my aunt that came over in 1960 from Germany because she missed us, and that was her only sister. And my plot is there. Oviedo's my home.
And I don't recall if you mentioned it or not. What was your father's name? The soldier.
Hyman.
Do you recall any traditions or memories from your school days?
Oh, yes. From Oviedo High School? Mm-hmm. Well, there's an interesting one. We in Chuliota, who went to Oviedo High School, we kind of, were together. We decided to start a teen club in Chuliota. I became the president, not even being the citizen yet. So, yeah, that was a good thing. And we had dances every Saturday night, and we just had a really good time. I mean, the kids, we always had something to do. It was constructive things, but there were good things. What else? And some of my friends, I still am in touch with them, especially the Chuliota kids. Yeah, what else? It was just a great experience, my childhood in Oviedo and Chuliota, and then to be able, A.M. Jones, who was this water superintendent, because Oviedo didn't have potable water until 1968, and he was the one that started it. And when he hired me, he says, I just want to ask you a question. He says, why would you want to work for Oviedo? I said, because I want to give back. I said, they taught me English. They treated me well. He said, but you're not going to make any money here. I said, it's not about the money, Mr. Jones. I said, because you are going to pay me a living wage. I said, I want to give back. He hired me.
A public servant at heart, huh?
Hey, give back. Remember what John Kennedy said, and that sticks in my mind till this day, and more so now than before, is ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. It's just important. Mm-hmm. It's very important, and that's what made this country such a great country, because everybody is, in a sense, able to make something of themselves and for themselves. Love my United States. Yes.
So I know that you've recently made some headway into correcting a historical inaccuracy about Oviedo High School. Would you care to share about some of your research that corrected the date of the school?
Okay, yes, that was quite an accomplishment because my friend, a classmate, Jimmy Jones, told me that his uncle graduated from Oviedo in 1928, Oviedo High School. I said, yeah, well, no problem. So I read where it was said, I think it was the school board, the man that called me was from the school board. He says, Oviedo High School was not started till 1932. And I said, I beg to differ. I said, Jim Jones's uncle graduated from there in 1928, and the cornerstone in our old school that is now Lawton Elementary School, I said 1922. And he says, well, you need to get that cornerstone. So, oh boy, so I went to the Sanford Historical Society, and I started looking at the records. What's his name?
Bennett Lloyd?
Bennett Lloyd. Bless his heart. He had me sitting there, and he helped me immensely for the research. I went through old newspapers, and I found where 1922 the article said that. It was 1922 was the first day of school, so I presented that to the high school, and make a long story short, they couldn't dispute that anymore. And yes, Oviedo High School was 1922, so last year, Trent Daniel, the principal, she was convinced that it was. So we had a big, nice celebration of our 100th anniversary. And there's one more thing that hopefully I live to see is in 2025, City of Oviedo will be 100 years old. They were incorporated in May of 1925. That was the year my mother was born. So yeah, hopefully I'll be around to see that. But yeah, Oviedo's an interesting place, and I do recommend it for everybody. But we do need to address the infrastructure a little more.
Is there anything else that you would like to share before we wrap up?
Just that everybody that moves into Oviedo gives back to Oviedo, and I hope it's as good an experience for everybody as it's been for me to live in Oviedo. We'll do it.
Thank you, Mrs. Bryant, for your time and your interview. I do appreciate it.
I hope I'm not too long-winded.
You are not. Would you like to?
I want to show you this.
Yes. Let's go over the supplemental materials that you brought.
Okay. First of all, my high school diploma.
So,
the school.
The Oviedo High School diploma.
The picture of when I came to America.
Oh,
that was my family. I'm the last living.
Your mom has such a sweet smile.
Didn't she? She was a happy girl coming over here. Did I not bring my passport? Oh, yes, I did. This is a picture 1957 before we came to America, because we came in 58, and this was my German passport.
Oh, wow.
And this is important on that. Wait, what is it? The entry date into America.
Oh. That's great.
And on a sad note, I did bring this, which just came up recently in a news report of my brother. Oh, God.
So this is the newspaper article about Norbert's death.
Yeah, that was it. And then they did an article, I don't know one of the historical societies, I think.
Jason Byrne recently released one
That
about
was
the
it.
Oviedo lights, and he included the story in
60 years
here.
ago.
Yes.
This was 60 years ago. Anyway, that was my brother. 17 years old.
Yeah, a baby.
Yeah. He was a good kid, though.
Yeah. So,
To add to it or not?
close this out here.